So this is a lawn area that has a lot of different species growing in it. And this soil in this area in particular is not the most ideal. It's heavy clay soil. It is a little bit low in organic matter, or that dark rich color. And so I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I can increase the soil building in this lawn or this area. So I've let a number of different types of weedy species grow up in here. Some would consider clover a weed, others not. I actually seeded some clover in here, but you can actually see that there's a fair amount of diversity in here, and each plant has a different signature of microbes at its base, and they all work together. So the more diversity I have, the more soil building I have. It's really helpful to notice what you have in here, and as long as you have plants growing in your landscape, you actually have soil building happening right there. So that on its own is one way to build soil, but I can also assist these plants to grow more soil. And so that's one of the things that I'm going to do, is by supporting the nutrition of either the soil or the plants, or adding more plants. So I'm going to show you a couple different options here. So the first technique that I'm going to talk about is adding liquid nutrition to your plants. So liquid nutrition, what does that look like? So that could be something like a kelp meal. This is a fish and kelp meal. So seaweed is really, really full of nutrients. It's wonderful. This is a liquid version. If I just had seaweed, that would probably be better. The fish adds a bit of nitrogen, which is great at the beginning of the season, but it's just not as good to put a lot of nitrogen on woody plants or perennial plants at the end of the year. So if I use this, I probably go light, like, just add a tablespoon or 2 or a dollop into the watering can, or I would add it into this container. So this is actually kind of a cool system. The cap unscrews, and you can put your micronutrients or liquid in there. You can dilute it or not. And then when you've got it screwed back on, you can actually attach this end to the end of a hose and adjust your dilution rate, so how quickly you want this piece to be sprayed out. I don't think it matters too much for a lawn, especially if you're adding micronutrients that are already diluted. So you can kind of add a mix, but it's a great way to add a foliar fertilizer to your plants. And what a foliar fertilizer is just a liquid nutrient blend that is sprayed on the surface of the leaf and is absorbed through the surface of the leaf. So that's a really great option. You can just spray it all around, you can spray it on different plants, and that is a great way to support plant health, which the healthier the plants, the more they take sugars or liquid carbon that they make, and they spread it out through the roots. And that is how soil building happens. And you can assist that process by making your plants, giving them the nutrients they need. So this time of year, we are slowly winding down. There's a lot of plants that are making seeds and nuts. And so one other thing you can do is you can either purchase something like a micronutrient that's a liquid form, like seaweed, or this is another one. This is from Advancing Eco Agriculture. It's a larger container because I get some of these things in bulk. But this one is a liquid crab and shrimp concentrate, and what that does is it basically has a lot of complex fungal foods. So sea minerals, crushed up crab shells, other things like that are really, really good. They have a lot of complex compounds that feed beneficial fungi, and so they're really good at protecting and supporting beneficial microbes that help protect against disease. So this is a great thing to use during the year, but you could also use it now as a liquid nutrition as well for supporting plants and soil building. This one right here, this is actually just a water, and I've added, in this case I added nettles, but I can also add any kind of weeds that are in my yard that are doing really, really well. So you just stick the weeds in water and let it sit for up to 2 weeks. You can let it sit longer than that, but it will be a little bit smelly if you do that. One thing you can do as well is add something to your liquid micronutrients called humic acid. So humic acid is, it's a complex carbon, it basically is sticky. And so what it does is it's dark colored, oftentimes it's derived from different rock or coal or other types of things, but it's really, really good at helping micronutrients stick. So I oftentimes put them in little bottles like this, and you can get them in smaller amounts, but they're really good at helping micronutrients stay in the soil. So something I might do in general is add like a dropper full to, say, a watering can when I'm adding my micronutrients, or I could also add it to my any kind of homemade nutrient blend that I do there, and it's just a way of helping the nutrients stick in the soil, and that's just a great option for making your soil building last. So it's kind of it helps build up the soil structure. So that's another option. That's an additive that you can add to any kind of liquid fertilizer that you use. Another option is to add a mineral amendment. So this is a mix of, it's a nutrient dense blend that has a lot of rock dust. So limestone is a rock dust, azomite, carbonatite, a lot of volcanic minerals are really, really high in micronutrients. And so this could be something that in the fall, it's a great time to add. Gypsum is another one, aragonite, all these different types of rock dust or mineral blends are really, really good for building up soil nutrition and kind of the base or the bank of minerals. You can do soil tests and see if there's specific ones that are really deficient in your soil, but if you have a really healthy biology, they can also help buffer your system. So I have a lot of ones here that are high in trace minerals. Soft rock phosphate's another one. There's a lot of different clays as well that are really, really good ground up. And so something like this I might add is I might take a couple handfuls and sprinkle it across an area like that. So that works in a lawn, but it also works in a garden bed. So liquid fertilizer, number one, mineral amendments or rock dusts or kind of micronutrient heavy things. This could also be something like sea salt, used in a lot of areas that are not by the coast actually, and that are in lots of rainy, temperate zone climates that get a lot of rain. Oftentimes a lot of minerals wash out of the soil quite a bit, and so there's actually some high mineral sea minerals that are really, really good for your soil as well. So that's another option. And then number three is actually plants. So there's lots of different types of plants, and plants you can grow as crops. You can grow them like clover. You can sprinkle those in a lawn. Clover is also wonderful for fixing nitrogen. What I can do in a raised bed area in particular is I can actually grow crops as soil builders, but also as a crop for me to eat. So I'll eat the tops and I'll leave the roots in the soil. Pea shoots, and then also I think there's daikon radishes in here as well. Here's some arugula. Daikon radish is one of those ones that is killed over the winter. A frost will kill it back. Radish has a really great weed suppressing capacity. So if you have a new garden bed that's full of tons of weeds, you can actually sprinkle in radish right before, say, a fall rain, and they'll sprout and they'll actually suppress the weeds in your area, and you get this blank slate that you can grow on. So radish are wonderful for that, and also things like peas also winter kill, meaning that the frost is too hard on them, so they are really good at soil building. And again, you can do this in anywhere you want to build the soil, so using plants, whether it's like crops that you can also eat, or in this case, like something like clover, you're actually using the existing plants in the yard, and so that's another option. And I'm just going to show you one other thing here. Here's just an example of a few rows of crops, different types of crops that I've planted in lines here, and this is early fall, it's mid-September, and these are planted very, very densely. So I soaked them in water ahead of time, and then I just planted the soaked seeds, and that's just one way to jumpstart the mix. You can also plant them right before a rainstorm, that's another option, and you just plant them in rows, and then I can easily, when I want to, come through here and just take some scissors and just trim them, and I can trim them as young as this, or I can let them grow up a little bit more. The denser they are, they do a really nice job, but this is arugula. So these are arugula as microgreens, but I'll probably let them get a little bit bigger. But I could start harvesting this and have salads and be building the soil at the same time. So if I pull up some of these, you'll start noticing, see all that soil kind of attached to the base You're starting to build up some of that soil, and that's a really good thing. Here's some purple radish. Again, these are great soil builders. Anytime you see soil clinging to the roots or kind of like a sheath around the roots, that's a really great example of soil building in action. So I just pulled those up so you could see the soil at the base, but if you were to harvest these, you just want to chop it off and leave all that amazing structure down below. And if you don't get around to harvesting, you can let them die back, and the plants on the top, as they die back, they will also add a little bit of mulch or cover to keep the soil covered the whole time. So those are just a couple different options, and you can just make strips, and every time you cut one down, you can add another strip. So just keep planting in rows. You can see some of these are growing faster than others, and squirrels love to, of course, dig them up because it's an open space, but there's a lot of option, and you can do some beautiful fall crops very, very quickly and get something to harvest as well as build the soil.